Hello, and welcome to the Libri Labra Book Club. I'm joined today with my husband, John, aka BookTubeHubby, and also Book Club VIP member, Tom. And for the month of June, we decided we were going to read Ariadne. I do have it here.
Oh, you moved it.
I got this from Book of the Month. I think I'm in love with them at this point. I've liked everything that I've read so far that I've gotten from Book of the Month. But before I jump into details about the book, I just wanted to let everyone know that if you ever want to join us live on the discussion, you can do that by becoming a Book Club VIP member on patreon.com/Libri Labra. There are a few other perks, which include getting a custom bookmark and helping decide what it is that we pick. You'll be in a rotation where you get to suggest books. You get to suggest books for me to review. You'll get priority commenting on YouTube. And there's a few other perks. So definitely go check out patreon.com/Libri Labra for more information. So this was your pick.
It was one of the three that I put in the poll, which surprisingly came out on top. But because Tom showed interest in Greek mythology right away, to letting us know that he had that interest. So I was very surprised that it came up, but I was very happy with the read. So going into it, it was one of those I had no idea outside of Greek mythology. I grew up with hearing those stories in I guess like children's literature. A lot of the stuff is based around Greek stories, and I've never actually
tons of video game stuff.
Tons of video games,
like Hades,
like everybody who wants to write actually references Greek mythology stuff. So,
and I knew all of that. And yet I felt very ignorant to many of the characters that are in Greek mythology and their stories outside of like reading Percy Jackson. I feel like that's
right. That I was gonna make that joke, but I failed.
That's the first step.
So.
I mean, it's
like hey, there's Greek mythology out there that's more than what Percy Jackson guys. Let's look outside.
I remember reading Percy Jackson. I didn't finish the first series. I only finished the first two books, and I'd like to revisit it. But I remember reading it and being like, "Oh my goodness, there's so much in here, and so many people, and so many stories."
I loved it. It was
so rich, and I remember
cute.
Being like, "I have to look into Greek mythology," and then I just never did. But now I'm definitely going to after reading this.
Right.
I mean, this time.
It's like, well, now we're more mature. We want to know more about those other stories and I want to know where they came from. Like there's the ideas and the concepts. Like if they were imagining that kind of stuff back then, what did they actually see that we were interpreting wrong?
I mean, the gods were so flawed, so flawed. But even though you did add this to the poll, it was something that I had selected from Book of the Month. And I think part of the reason was that recently I have rewatched Inception multiple times. And it wasn't until I actually read the script that I realized what Ellen Page's character's name was. Because I kept hearing it, but I just couldn't imagine what the name was. So then when I saw it, I was like, Ariadne, okay, that has to have some meaning. And I remember looking it up. So as soon as I saw that a book named Ariadne was coming out, I was very, very interested in it. And, obviously, she's named after this Ariadne, who was familiar with the labyrinth and the maze. And in Inception, she is the architect of the dream maze. So I was just really, really intrigued. And so that's why I picked it from the Book of the Month Club. But initial thoughts.
Is this before going in or after?
Before spoilers.
Pre-spoiler.
Yeah, pre-spoiler. Just like general.
I don't know. When you told me it was just a retelling of a Greek mythology story from a female's perspective, I was like, I'm in. I want to see what I like gods. I like magic. I like weird, fantastical things. So I was all in from the beginning.
Tom, what are your initial thoughts?
I'm always worried about doing a story like this, any sort of quote-unquote retelling. This equally applies to The Chosen and the Beautiful, which is coming up next month.
Yeah.
But I was pleasantly surprised by this one. There's some things that it's like, well, we'll get into it in the spoiler section, but it's like, I don't think that's exactly the way I learned it. Sort of a thing. So, but I'll say why when we get to that soon. But I liked it. I thought it was very well done.
I also thought it was very well done. I thought the audiobook was great.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I always prefer first person when reading things. And so I very much felt part of the story and felt like these women were telling me their stories. And
Mm-hmm.
I loved the writing, and, and I'm just realizing how drama-filled Greek mythology actually is, and I had to keep texting friends to rant to them about what was happening in the book.
That was a good sign.
It was really funny, but also I was like so mistaken. I read a different book that happened to mention a movie called Immortals, which was about Theseus, and Henry Cavill plays Theseus. And in my mind somewhere, I was like, Henry Cavill, yeah, he's awesome. And so I thought Theseus was going to be a great person, and that was not the case at all. So I spent a lot of time very angry.
That's the rich white man story of
that's
Theseus.
the retcon. Yeah, that's the retcon in here.
So I kind of went into Ariadne thinking it was going to be an epic romance, and not really.
No.
It's not how that went down at all.
This is bullshit.
There were lots of expletives, and I was constantly like,
she called me. I don't remember where I was driving to, but I was on the phone. I was driving somewhere, and she called me. She goes, "What the, John? What is going on? What is wrong with these gods?"
Mm-hmm.
So if you haven't read Ariadne yet, I would highly recommend you pick it up. Go ahead, go read it, come back to this video, because we are now jumping into spoilers.
Okay.
Spoiler alert. Man,
You should make a graphic like that and just put it up there.
yeah. It's when we started. I got the Stream Deck. You can borrow it.
Yeah.
So, I don't even know where to begin. I was, each time I explained what I was reading to someone, they were like, "Oh, that sounds like Greek mythology." And I was like, why am I the only one that doesn't know that this sounds like Greek mythology?
Mm-hmm.
Because the story of Pasiphae was mind-blowing to me. I was like, wait, what is happening right now?
What's the story of Pasiphae?
Pasiphae was cursed and fell in love with a bull.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's what you're talking about.
Yes,
okay.
but the reason why was because Minos fell foul of Poseidon. Because he said, "Oh, give me a sacred bull and I'll sacrifice it." And so Poseidon gave him a sacred bull. And then Minos said, "Oh, this is too fine a bull to be sacrificed. I'm going to substitute a lower grade one." And Poseidon doesn't have anything of that nature. So yeah, that's how Pasiphae got cursed.
So, okay, so that he pushed Pasiphae to madness,
right,
to pay for what Minos had done.
Right.
That's strike one.
Okay, but she didn't just fall in love with a bull. Then a cow costume thing was made for her,
so that she could crawl up in it, and the bull would mate with it. Yep.
Just the picture of that.
It went to completion. Let's put it that way.
But I started looking up after reading this. I was like, wait, is this for real? I wasn't sure how grounded in the mythology this book was going to be. I wasn't sure how many liberties she was going to take. But every time I was like, wait a minute. And I went researching. It was
accurate.
Oh my God, it's
true. Wow. So what did she actually change then?
But so when I went searching on Google, I started finding art based on that.
That's where that came from. I was wondering why I was like, she actually found a picture, because you sent me I think a response from somebody.
Because I sent it to Diana.
I was like
telling her.
I was
the
like,
story,
how did you?
She was like, what?
I listened to. There was no pictures. How do you have? Why?
Because fan art. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh well.
I mean, it looks like old Renaissance art, just old. So, but I sent
someone
it to
told
my
that
friend.
Story a few hundred years ago with that art.
I sent it to my friend. She was like, "Oh my God, I'm dying." I was
Renaissance version of memes. There you go.
This is bullshit. No, fuck bullshit.
Almost literally in this case, but go ahead.
So,
man.
But, right away, one of the things that I thought was really intriguing was kind of Ariadne reflecting on what happened to Medusa.
Mm-hmm.
And
You get a lot of that, actually.
yeah, I mean, it kind of went full circle, honestly. Yeah. But, just Ariadne being, I think she said something like, it was Medusa that was punished, but it was actually, was it Perseus? Who was the person that did something to
Poseidon?
Okay, it was Poseidon. So, but she was punished for that.
For someone else's,
right.
Well,
So,
God, yes. Again.
So, they always talk about how Medusa is evil and she turned people to stone and this and that. So she's constantly like being turned into this wicked character and being blamed for everything that happened. But Ariadne was pretty much like,
I would be that
if this was
too.
done to me, I would do the same thing. I would tear everything down. Like, so there was much of that throughout the story. I felt just the women being punished for.
I think that was the theme here.
Yeah.
Like, it was just the idea that we need to stop looking to, actually make them be responsible for their actions, because we're seeing a lot of the other thing here.
I may have crossed the streams and I took two stories and conflated them into one. I think Medusa was her hair was so beautiful that she had the hubris to challenge the gods, and that's when she got stricken. And I know there was another it could have been Medusa for all I know. One of the priestesses to Artemis, I think it was essentially raped by Poseidon, and then she paid the price for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, because Artemis was supposed to be like the goddess of like
the virgin goddess, yes.
Chastity.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I just remember reading that somehow like Medusa seduced whoever it was, and so she was to blame for what happened. But it was just sad. It's sad. It was sad. Like women just being.
Well, it's the kind of thing when you connect the dots. It's like, well, of course, there's a pattern here. But I don't think it's usually put in that sort of way. So.
And so, I don't want to keep ranting about Theseus.
No, go ahead. That's actually part of it.
As soon as he's introduced, she's like, "Oh, his sea green eyes, or whatever,
sea foam,
whatever."
Mm-hmm. But he's hot, so it's okay.
Yeah.
It's whatever.
But like, I don't know. You can't just be hot. Like, that just doesn't work, or at least not for me. Like, you can't be hot and a dick, because being a jerk is always going to like, being a jerk is gonna outweigh being attractive. He said that before we started.
It was unintentional too, because I was wearing a different
Right.
shirt, and then I had to go change because I crawled under the cabinet to check internet stuff.
Oh no!
So I came back and I was like, "Oh hey, we back."
Mm-hmm.
So Ariadne has been wonderful. I loved it. But Theseus, total jerk. Like, I just, as I'm describing him, I'm telling my best friend, and I'm like, do you know what this guy did? Like, he, like,
it was
Ariadne,
like a hot gossip just happened to her yesterday.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I was so just like, I have to tell somebody.
That's a good thing, though. That's a good sign, like I said.
So, him and Ariadne starts falling for him. And then, she helped him in the maze. So basically they were going to run away, and he agreed that he would marry her. And then he tells her little sister that, she can come along when they run away, but he tells her to meet them on like the opposite island.
Mm-hmm.
And
you go to the west coast of the island, and we're totally going to be on the east coast.
And the fact that he he tells Ariadne, okay, we're going to make a pit stop on Naxos, and then just leaves her there in the dead of night.
Yep.
And then goes back to Phaedra. Like, Was that him just trying to get both? Or was that him choosing Phaedra?
I think he was making sure Phaedra didn't ruin it for everybody.
But he married her.
After the fact. After he come back and told that his sister was dead, he doesn't know what happened. But, like, come on. He played both of them pretty freaking hard.
Mm-hmm.
What a jerk. What a jerk.
And I'm curious what Margaret's saying, too. I wonder how it measures up to the thesis of Shakespeare's fame. And what... not sure what that means, to be honest. Tom, do you know what that means?
What, Theseus and Shakespeare?
Yeah.
I'm not well read enough to know the answer to that. So sorry.
So
if back in the day,
another door.
Yeah, classical scholars. This is their bread and butter. This would be as familiar to them as any stories familiar to us now, like Marvel, like the MCU. That was essentially their MCU. It's like because everybody at the time knew those stories. What?
I was just curious.
No, it's
Just
like when you bring
about
up
it that way.
like Ovid and Zeus and the Titans and such. Everybody knew that, and that was the common currency by which they do. Oh, you're a classical scholar. You know about so and so. I think anyway. So it's a shared education, I guess, because when you had to learn Greek and Latin, well, you have to have text for them.
Right.
They are,
Well, not just that, but I feel like a lot of comic book heroes were kind of either based on or influenced by
Absolutely.
mythology, so.
Well, there's a character that pops up in Outlander who takes a name from this book.
Oh, really?
So, yes.
Interesting. We're behind on Outlander.
Yes, I know. I am totally up to date, but yes.
I might have to fix that.
So Theseus in Midsummer was a ruler with a heavy hand and was shown as conquering his Amazon wife. Here
we go.
Here's another one, yeah.
She is in the story.
Yes.
She is not a wife.
Mm-mm.
She was very much
You've done Wonder Woman's mother wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is Themyscira all over again. Sorry.
I don't know. Margaret, are you okay with
We're gonna spoil the shit out of this if you
who in Outlander? Who in Outlander, Tom? Margaret wants to know.
It's one of the slaves on the plantation that who the hell Jocasta runs. I can't remember the name of the plantation. So if you want me to give you the name, I'll give it to you.
I think she wants it, yeah.
Phaedra, turns out.
Oh, interesting.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Interesting. I wonder. Well, I mean, I guess we'll watch it and we'll know.
Don't look for references yet.
I know.
Stop
I'm
it.
gonna spoil it.
That's what I'm saying.
It's already started.
In those times, like Jamie too, cross streams here, classical scholar. He had to learn Greek and Latin, so they had to give him stories, and these are the stories they got, and this is how we get the names that we do. So, anyway, carry on.
Let's take a vacation to Greece.
I think he was saying Jocasta had the slaves, so it was Phaedra. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was I going to say just now?
She also named Ulysses, remember, as well. Just pointing that out. Carry on.
So another interesting thing with, me just being like super confused.
Mm-hmm.
I was expecting Theseus to be a stand-up hero, which he was not. but then when Dionysus was introduced, I was like, oh man. And, he ended up being a much better character than I was expecting.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, he himself was still flawed, and he did stuff at the end of the book that we'll talk about in a bit. But I think he really captivated me with how much he seemed to care about humans and humanity and their fragile lives and his love for Ariadne, which was totally unexpected for me. I was just like, I guess I had notions of what Dionysus was going to be like, just a sloppy drunk. I don't know where I saw this or if my brain is making it up or it's some Mandela effect, but I picture Jeff Bridges as Dionysus for some reason.
Okay.
Like, I feel like I saw him somewhere where he played that character.
I could see where you're going,
And
but
I
it's
thought it
not.
was a
I
Percy
don't think it's the
Jackson
same
movie, but
guy.
I
I think
looked
you're
it
right.
up.
I think you're swapping faces
Maybe
with him.
I don't know. So
Right. Well, I mean, when so much of our culture is actually based on those stories, and nobody ever really actually knows that. That's the thing, though. What was I going with the Jeff Bridges thing? There was something before that, I think. Never mind. If I come back to it, I'll mention it.
but like maybe it was the magicians or something.
Right.
I don't know if I looked into that, but
or the Bacchus references for everything
something
else,
like this,
because I mean everybody does expect him to be all like,
I
rules,
just
who
expected,
cares? I'm just gonna
like
get
a
drunk
super
and go this
sloppy
way.
drunk, not caring about anything, having no respect for anything or anyone, and I just didn't expect him to be so emotional in the book, which I felt like he was.
I also understand we're looking at this from it is a rewrite. It is something that it's from her. It's what she wanted to say. What her story is telling.
I totally get that. I'm just saying that I had very.
We can't compare it with others. Really, it's kind of like it's another perspective look at it.
I mean, even Greek mythology in itself, as I was doing research, it would say in one story, this happens. Another story, this happens.
Good.
So like there's like opposing stories within Greek mythology itself.
Oh yeah, there's different versions of the same tale. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, you got the telephone effect. No matter which direction it goes, it's going to be different if you go from different regions.
Well, because I was doing a lot of like looking up like people's kids and the parentage, and it was frequently being like, well, some people think that this person and this person is their parent, and some people think that this person and this person is their parent. So I was just like, it's pretty.
There's
pretty
a lot of
intense.
bastards out there that don't know which god is their father.
In that regard, Ariadne is related to a character of a book that's been out for a while. That's also gotten popularity as well. That being Circe.
Oh.
They should be paying Greece for all these because they're kind of.
Oh, they're well beyond copyright.
They're not doing. They're not. Yeah, it's too late for the copyright. Dates back how many years? It was before we even started that.
Before we came out with the notion.
But then, I mean, yeah, Greece should get a little bit of money here and there. They need it.
But one of the things
just help them out.
One of the things I remember when Theseus was telling the story about Medea, is I read Medea back in high school from the Euripides play. It's like I don't quite remember it being that way. So. I think that he was gaslight. Well, I also like the way he gaslighted Phaedra. So you must have went to the wrong side of the island. I was like, no, look, I totally told you.
Dude, she wanted to stab him too. It was funny. It was great. It was, you just in her. She's like, ugh, I gotta deal with this guy. It sucks.
So,
I mean, comparatively, Ariadne and Phaedra lived such completely different lives, despite having somewhat fallen in love with the same person, Theseus,
and got to see two opposite sides of him.
I mean, yeah, but I think Phaedra still knew he was a jerk. Like, she married him probably just out of obligation, and she just felt like she had to, and whatever other lies.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
Yeah, she says as much because her father Deucalion wasn't a strong ruler as Minos, and so hey, we need allies. Oh, I know how to get an ally. And we'll marry you. And here we are. So,
one of the questions in the reading discussions mentioned, like the way Ariadne and Phaedra treated or felt about their children, and I thought there was just like a huge difference there. Like Ariadne kind of lived for her children and was constantly caring for them and just very loving in how she spoke of them. But Phaedra, on the other hand, what I thought was interesting was, to me, having had experienced postpartum depression, like that's what it sounded like to me. Because I remember when my son was born, and I remember like, women will tell you, oh, I fell in love with my baby as soon as they laid it on my chest. And I didn't feel that right away. I felt like this was a little stranger that I had to get to know. and that disconnect is kind of hard to deal with. And I feel like Phaedra was experiencing that. And then later on, she seemed to start to see Theseus, who she already disliked. She started to see Theseus in her kids. And like, I think that put even more distance between her and her kids. But like, I appreciated that like postpartum depression was kind of touched upon throughout the book. And I think it was handled well.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I think it went beyond postpartum depression because
definitely
later she realizes, hey, this isn't the life for me.
Yeah.
I should be out doing what the guys do. So,
I mean, because she pretty much held down the fort while he was gone, and she was doing a lot of what he should have been doing. But
because was it Theseus, right? Okay, yeah, he was a typical frat boy. He didn't care about the government. He just I was going on adventures and stuff.
He didn't care about anything. What's funny is that, I know they're like leaving on ships and they're going on these trips, and the way it's talked about in the book, it kind of makes it seem like it's something that happens really quickly, but that had to have taken weeks or months at a time sometimes. And so those gaps in time have to be like really, really intense. Like if he just decides I'm going to sail to wherever the hell and he's gone for like 3 months.
Right. Months, maybe even years at a time.
Oh my God. Like you leave, your kid is 1, you come back and it's like 5.
So one of the things I wanted to look at was when Theseus left Naxos, I don't know how it's spelled. Naxos.
Yeah.
So when he left Naxos and left Ariadne there to essentially, he thought she was leaving her there to die, and sailed off without changing the sails on his ship. You think that was intentional, or it was just for speed to leave her there? Because sailing back, and then his dad
thought he was dead,
killing himself because he thought his son didn't make it back from killing the Minotaur, because his ship sailed back with black flags. Now, was that intentional for him to end up coming back as king, or did he actually kill his dad by mistake?
I mean, I don't think he actually killed his dad per se.
Well, I mean,
like,
his dad killed himself.
yeah, right. So, like, I don't know if that responsibility should lie on Theseus, but was that an intended plan? I don't know. I didn't perceive it as such, but
I was just wondering if there was more there that I wasn't seeing.
But Desiree, to your point, they must have been on a long enough voice. Like somebody must have pointed out and say, "Hey, you saw the black sails up. Maybe you should change this." Oh no, keep it.
I thought it was what John was saying, that they were just trying to take off so fast they didn't take the time to change them, and then just didn't.
Right, because they wanted to make sure they left.
Sorry, go ahead, John.
Well, they just wanted to be gone before Ariadne woke up. That was
and more like Minos pursuing him. Yes.
Right. So now, if he had actually taken now, is that something they can actually stop on the waters to change, or is it just because they're always constantly in the wind, they can't change their sails until they get to their destination? Like they actually have to stop at a place to stop and switch the sails. So
yeah, but the way you stop is to strike the sails.
I don't have an answer to this, but maybe it was mistakenly, but I thought that he left Naxos and went back to Crete. Oh, he went back to Athens first? I thought he went back to get Phaedra first.
No, he left Phaedra at Crete, I thought. Because what had happened is he got back to Athens, and like John said, his father Aegeus killed himself. Oh, great, now I'm king. Well, now I get to have a bride. Okay, well, who was that going to be? Well, okay, Phaedra, yeah, we need an ally with Athens. We'll send you over, and yeah, that's how it turned out. So I honestly think that was all planned by Theseus.
All right, so Margaret in the chat is actually saying you do not have to stop to change the sails, according to many sailing adventures stories I've read.
All right,
I mean,
excellent.
If we're going by the,
I read that.
Yeah, that's a thing we can do. All right,
I saw the movie. Yeah, no.
But who knows? But he just didn't expect his dad to kill himself. Right. That's all.
I think he did.
No, I mean,
it's just so long
past him. Yeah, like he was such a jerk. I wouldn't put that past him.
Oh my God.
That's
my
terrible.
God.
I didn't
So
read
that's
it like
what I'm
that,
saying.
but
That's the reason why I was pulling this out. Was Theseus that much of a, he just didn't care about anybody else but himself,
I
like
mean,
not
he
even
was
his own father.
out there raping people and stuff. So
And apparently, he couldn't take Ariadne because she was the one who was a traitor to Minos, and we couldn't have a traitor in the royal family.
Right.
So,
He was like she gave up her family,
so it just worked out
she
in
doesn't.
Theseus' favor
Yeah.
all around.
Yeah. Mm-mm.
I just want to punch him in the face.
Stop looking at Henry Cavill.
Oh my
do that
God.
either, okay, it's not his fault.
Henry Cavill shouldn't have taken that part.
Find another Theseus.
Another fable, which I think she not sugarcoated, but made a little bit happier than I think the original was Midas.
Mhm.
Oh yeah,
everything he touched turned.
I
to
like
gold.
that story actually.
Yeah. So
I like how it was told there, but I mean, it leaves it like it closes off like some of the Midas's stories for future story. But I don't think she's like, I don't know if she's planning on writing more in that world. It'd be interesting to see, but like that's a lot.
So somebody that we haven't talked about yet is Daedalus.
yes.
And
I was happy to see them in this.
Yeah, I know you guys are gonna laugh at me when I tell you this. Like, I knew the story of Icarus. I knew the story of Icarus, right? I knew he flew too high to the sun. Correct. Never stopped to think about what that meant. Like what happened, what that meant. She's like, yeah, he had wings, he flew too high to the sun.
When you have wings made of wax, yes, that kind of
right.
is important.
But hearing it in the story completely spelled out to me, I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like I did not think of it or picture it at all in that way. And what a tragedy. That was so sad.
I wanted to be there when she read that part, but I wasn't. I had tried to time it when I get out of the shower and see, because I got out of the shower and she goes, Icarus died. And I was like, oh yeah, I know. That's where she's at. Okay.
I think the version I remember is that Icarus took his dad's wings and then flew solo. But I like the way she put it into the story.
Yeah, I think that made it a lot more powerful, especially how she was describing that, Daedalus was trying to signal to Icarus, like, no, don't go that high, come back down. Right. That he was frantically trying to like catch him and let him know, and then the way he just plummeted like a bird into the ocean.
I don't know if it's old animations or some other cartoon that I've seen, but I feel like I've seen something where I remember seeing Daedalus like, telling Icarus, no, you weren't, that wasn't meant for you. That's not yours. Why did you take that? Right. And then he ended up making another one for himself to leave out of after the fact. Okay. That's the story I remember, not them going together, which I like this one. She's right. There's more impact to it.
Well, because they weren't just testing out the wings; they were trying to escape together.
Right.
Oh yeah. Right. There's narrative sense. Yeah, they had to get away from Minos.
But the one I remember was just that Icarus was such a high spirited boy. He wanted to borrow his dad's wings to fly.
He wanted to take a joyride,
not knowing that he was making them to leave, not just to fly. It was more of a, hey, oh, this is fun. Let me. Right. He was like that high energy. He wanted to get up there and do it. That's what I remember of, because and she still actually had that in Icarus in this story, so I liked it. I liked it a lot.
Even though I didn't feel like Icarus himself showed up like a ton in the story, like I feel like there was a lot more reference to Daedalus, and I kind of liked the relationship between Daedalus and Ariadne. He almost seemed kind of like I don't know, a favored uncle or something.
Right.
And Phaedra and Rhadamanthus.
Strong-willed child. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a good
when she asks, if she could stay in the council chamber, they essentially let her in, and like it seems like Rhadamanthus takes her under his wing and showing her all the things that have to be done to rule. So unless that's in Athens, I forget. But there was at some point where one of them had a conversation with Rhadamanthus, and he turns out to be this actually really knowledgeable old guy. So, but I can't remember what the context was. So,
I kind of wish I hadn't done so much Googling while I was reading the story. I probably should have just read it, but like sometimes my anxiety gets the best of me, and sometimes I'm just so curious as to, you know, how things line up. But I kind of spoiled myself on what happens to Phaedra, but I wasn't expecting what happened to Hippolytus.
Yes.
So I don't know. I felt bad for Phaedra, pretty much. Like, you know, here she was just kind of hating on her husband, not really appreciating her kids, just not liking her life at all. And Hippolytus kind of trots in, and she latched on because she found someone that was of like decent character, which she hadn't been around. Yeah. So like, I mean, I don't blame her, but like her logic totally went out the window. And
yeah, but that one of the great things about the book is that to her, this is totally logical. This is the way things should proceed.
Thanks for stopping by, Margaret. Hope to see you again soon. But yeah, continue. Tell me.
No, I was just say that in her mind, this is totally logical. This is the way it's going to go. And it's like you don't see outside yourself. It's like, oh no.
Like not even a little. Her sister couldn't talk sense into her. No one could talk sense into her. And I don't know. My heart broke.
You spend so much time in your mind, you actually fall in love with your own delusion.
And when
that's so sad.
And when the delusion is stripped away, it's immediate. And it's like, how could I even thought
How
this?
could I? Yeah. But I mean, like, because she said it out loud, and she just, you know, had to deal with the reality of his reaction, which was not at all what she was expecting. But before that, though, I think maybe Phaedra had stepped away, so she didn't hear what Hippolytus had said, but I think she stepped away. But Ariadne introduced herself to Hippolytus, and he was like, oh, so you're like my aunt.
Right.
Yes.
And then she you know, her realization of like, oh God.
Well, they made it clear everyone around her knew what was going to happen except for her. And that was one of the best parts of the story.
Oh, Jesus.
I think, you know, what I had read, though, was that it was a bit more complex. So, like, I thought there were going to be more stages of back and forth, because I think it said that in the story that, you know, Phaedra had approached him and he denied her. And then so she said that something really happened between them when it didn't. And then something else happened. And then she felt so guilty that she did what she did. But, like, you know, he was still kind of implicated in all of it with the start of her letter, but it didn't end up being as complex as I had expected.
So you're telling me the story that you remember of that is that she had gotten Hippolytus killed because of what she said and then hung herself?
Yeah, it's not the story I remember. It's what I read on the internet before I finished this book.
Okay, so all right. Interesting. This is very interesting because this is coming from a female perspective, and you're looking at all the wrongdoings that the men have done. They got the females in trouble with the gods and stuff like that. It's just it's interesting because now you have the exact opposite of what we have. We have two different sides of stories, and like you said, looking it up, there's even that going down the list. So I wonder how much of that has been changed throughout the years, because there could be like 16 or 17 different versions of the story.
I'm sure this will at some point become another way it's told.
I really like this perspective, though. It's interesting. And I'm sorry I have to do this. I've had a cat here just dangling.
So I think I really, really felt Phaedra's panic when she finally kind of opened her eyes to the situation and realized that it was not at all what she was expecting. And, you know, in her mind, she immediately was like, my life is over. He's going to tell everyone.
Yeah.
And really,
he hasn't told
Hippolytus
anybody
didn't do
yet,
anything.
and then, right.
And he was like the best character in the whole freaking story because he was raised by other people, and he was.
And the fact that he was implicated just because she was trying to write him a letter after the fact, and then just stopped, and it was like, well, this isn't gonna work.
But the most upsetting thing was that Theseus at no point questioned whether that was true or not, and I can only imagine that was because he's such a jerk.
That's what, because that's what he would have done.
That's what he would have done, and that's just heartbreaking. Like absolutely heartbreaking. And even Ariadne was trying to tell him that wasn't the case, but like.
So anybody with that kind of lack of empathy does not need power.
But how do you like? I mean, the fact that Theseus all of a sudden cared about Phaedra, like he was like, "Oh, my dear sweet Phaedra." Well, how could he?
Because it was a show. It was an act. It was a thing. It was another. It was more leverage he can use to make people love him.
Politics deserve better.
Everybody deserves better.
Maybe Theseus.
Yeah. So, we're gonna spend a little too much time on Theseus if we don't get away from him. Okay. So, how about we move over to Dionysus and his rites and rituals. Going into what we see early on, you're led to believe that he's drawn women away from unhappy marriages and unhappy situations, and they've come just to live life freely without having to worry about the tyranny of man. So
it's a male god they flock to, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, but I mean, apparently his words, wine, and dancing apparently is the allured, the charming part of his rituals.
Well, something I didn't understand, and maybe this is just because I don't have a strong foundational knowledge of Greek mythology, but the way he was talking about, I guess, acquiring new maenads, or there was another word for them, not like followers, but
he wanted more followers. He wanted more people to.
But is that just strictly because he's a god, and that's? But do they gain more power from having?
I think
if you've ever seen American Gods, the answer is yes.
Okay.
So the more people you have, like
that believe in you,
that actually are giving their time and energy to you, the more power they have. So yeah.
So basically, then all of the gods are just constantly
fighting each other for
divvy up man.
Correct. Correct.
Social media thing, yeah. Well, that's most followers.
I mean, that's what social media was back then. Which god do you follow, or who do you?
Except, you have Dionysus, who is, in all intents and purposes, I believe, a lesser god, going up against Hera, who's one of the heavy hitters. And so we know how this is going to turn out at the end. But
well, you're also looking at. You have the gods actually creating new gods all the time and demigods.
Right.
So I would imagine they would stop making more gods at some point if they're actually worrying about how many people have man following them. But all the demigods, those are mortal. So they end up using them as pawns.
They're using
their.
Right?
Well, I'm saying like some of them end up not. They don't. They're not eternal. Like Dionysus says, he's going to live forever. More the half god man is going to eventually die. But I'm just saying they use their children as pawns against each other too. It's like what?
I thought Ariadne was like mortal, but somewhere I read that she was like
She's part Titan,
part Titan,
from Helios.
Yeah, like a whole bunch of stuff in a very, very, very tiny part.
Yeah, granddaughter of Helios through Pasiphae.
So, I was like totally just believing everything that Dionysus was shelling out in the beginning. I was like, oh, he's a good guy. He's gonna make such a good husband. And then, you know, then she started seeing like blood in the streams or whatever, and I was like, wait, what's happening? And maybe that scene that she saw with the goat being ripped apart should have felt a lot more gruesome. But I was like, but it came back to life. See, I don't know. It didn't seem like
we had this conversation afterwards, and she was like, "It's okay though, right?" And I'm like, "Okay," but my question is, does it remember being torn apart? Because if that's the case, then it just it's straight up torture, and that's not okay. Like that experience is not okay. That's like that'll rip your soul. Like that's a part of it, you'll live with that forever now. Like that tiny baby goat is gonna grow up with some trauma because it has dreams over and over again about some crazy mob ripping it apart, and that is no, sir.
And was it the same baby goat they were using ritual after ritual?
I don't know.
Well, the baby goat would have to grow up at some point, so it wouldn't be baby goat. A very traumatized goat. But
the reason I wanted to bring this up is she actually showing the childlike. Is she showing that he is still a child god, or that he is still a god, still learning what his power can and can't do?
Yes,
because it seems like he came back from that. What he did to his brother's island was crazy. I mean, even though he was standing there, laughing and jovial about it, he still kind of had that. Yeah, I just fucked up,
oh well. Yeah.
Well, as a god, what can you? I mean, he's like, well, we're about to go to war. And he tried to do something that he thought was helping, and it ended up doing something incredibly horrible.
Yes.
And
once again, it's in his mind. This is totally logical. I could totally do this.
Yeah.
From the outside looking in, no, you can't. The baby goat is not the same as a baby human. Especially on that amount of a scale, like the whole city.
Right.
And if he doesn't have the time to go through everybody.
Yeah. So there is a story I recall. I don't remember what context it was, but where his Maenads do actually tear a human apart.
Oh my!
I think the story. One of the stories I remembered was that he had got enough of a following that he did attack his brother, and that they were the ones. They took the firstborn of each family, and put them and dragged them into the river. Some shit like that. That's what I remember. I could be 100% wrong, but.
I don't know. It was disappointing.
Well, again.
No, I mean, I don't know. I guess
the defense here is he didn't know he was doing.
I think he played a really good game in the beginning where he was like, I'm better than these other gods because of this reason, and this reason. And then Ariadne was like, no, you're not. You're not. You're just exactly like all of them.
Yeah, there's a point in the book, and I wish I thought I had highlighted it, but I can't find it now, where I think it's Ariadne who essentially says that, because you guys live forever, you don't ever grow up. And she says why, but I don't remember what that was.
Okay, so that's what she's showing. All right.
Yeah. And which brings to mind the TV show I recently completed watching, but that's a spoiler alert. But yes, that's like how true it is, because they don't really value anything because they're immortal and they can live forever. And it's known that. Zeus especially had a lot of female human lovers, and he would lose interest in them, and
that's why we have 800 stories of Hera and her jealousy.
Yeah, there's a reason why, And in fact, in The Chosen and the Beautiful, the very first page, there's a Greek mythology reference.
Okay.
So, which does refer to Zeus, but. Not directly, but if you know the story, sort of a thing.
Excuse me.
I think that, as things were going down towards the end, I kind of like the way the author was describing the scene.
Mhm.
And, she mentions early on how Ariadne kind of glanced at Perseus's shield with Medusa's head on it or whatever, and I was like, no. But
Yeah.
but Ariadne kept thinking, and so she kept describing Ariadne's thoughts and what was going through her head, and like she really slowed down the whole process. And so there was a part of me that kept hoping that that wasn't what happened, that she wasn't actually turning to stone.
No, you actually got the slowed down experience of her turning to stone.
Yeah, I know.
I loved it.
Yeah.
And hated it at the same time, but
I mean, and you could almost just see it in slow motion. You could see Dionysus's face and how he kind of crumbled at the end, seeing what happened.
And once again, woman pays for a man's.
Yeah. And it just sucked so bad because she was like, I'm gonna tell him to leave. It's just gonna be me and the Maenads on the island, and we're just gonna raise the kids. And and I was like, yeah. And then and I was like, no.
Well, yeah, but when the author said that Perseus came to the wall with the shield, so how the hell would that even work? Because that's a huge. It has to be at least a sizable shield to protect you from the sword thing. So it's like, where the hell would he put it? But decided when when the author said that he appeared on the wall, it's like, oh no, somebody's getting turned to stone. Just a question of who, and now we know.
Everyone.
And so just, interesting that things kind of went full circle with Ariadne reflecting on Medusa and Medusa's story to then have that be her demise.
Well, early on in the book when they're told the story, and to her credit, Ariadne said, I want to be like Medusa. I'm not going to hide away. I'm going to go out and, inflict my wrath upon people, which, understandable. So.
She had 5 kids.
She did. And all now left on Naxos.
Yeah.
I guess with Dionysus as their father. Oh boy. Those would be some dysfunctional kids now.
Right. Well, one I know is the personification of wine. That's the first one, Apion.
Yep.
And the other one, Staphylos is and Staphylos is the personification of grapes. Then past that, it gets murky. So
they had some interesting names.
But no, I remember one of the things that she did bring up is that when Minos died, when Hades wanted to subcontract the judging job, he did pick Minos and Rhadamanthus. I can't remember who the third person was. Like the judge the souls, which way were you going to go and after
right.
it. So. But one of the things that they mentioned in the book is, oh, nobody's ever done that before. It's like, what about Persephone?
I think the only thing I know about Persephone is her being dragged into the underworld. Is that the right person? Am I thinking of the right person?
Well, again, it might be Hades. Oh, she's hot. I want her, and bring her down. And one of the heroes went back to get her. And I think they somehow made an arrangement where she would be with Hades 6 months of the year. And then this other person 6 months of the year. So.
I think I've been hearing recently on Twitter that there's like a Hades video game now.
Oh yeah, that's what I said. Hades. That's what I was talking about. It's really good.
I haven't seen it or seen anything about it. I've just been hearing whispers on
Hades.
What's the game style?
I don't know.
Platform, I would say.
Oh, is it? Okay.
No, it's more like a ARPG platformer. Kind of like Diablo.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
It's really good.
You like top down. Yeah, if it's like Diablo, okay.
Third-person isometric.
Kind of a lot to it then.
It's really good. It looks really smart too.
It's only $30.
You should wait for it on sale. It'll go on sale at some point.
It's not even out yet.
Game of the year.
No, Hades is out. I have it.
Oh.
It says it's
release date 8/13/21.
Yeah, that's what it says here. I don't know. It says Hades.
Oh, maybe that's the new Xbox,
the Xbox X Series X. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Maybe it's remastered. It's like
current gen
texturized for it.
Yeah. No, but I have it on PC and it's really, really good. It's a really good game. So, but if you once you know the Greek mythology, I know who you are. Medusa is in it, but I can't say how. But yes. So, it's a very good game. Highly recommended if you pick it up.
I want to check it out. Are we ready for final thoughts?
I think so.
Sure.
Okay, you can go first.
I'll get it 5 stars. I'm actually really enjoying the. I think we're gonna have to dive into more of this stuff. Cersei, all of the above. Like,
Yeah, once you get critical mass, you can integrate the stories together. It's like, oh, and see the patterns and such.
as much as I have known of Greek mythology in the past, I've never actually, swam in it, and I'd like to now. So let's do it.
I think I also give it 5 stars, and I kind of really like that for the most part. I feel like we started with Ariadne because Inception is so meaningful to me, and she was named after, the character was named after Greek mythology, so I feel like it's just meaningful to me. And I really liked Jennifer Saint's writing. I really liked the audiobook, and I guess I'm just going to have to be on the lookout for more Greek mythology. I know there's only 2 that come to mind right now, and both are by Madeline Miller. It's Circe, and then the other one I think is The Song of Achilles. So
you can always go with the classics, though, like the Iliad and the Odyssey.
Yeah, I do want
to the original text, not the original stories. So
do want to watch Jason and the Argonauts.
Clash of the Titans, man, the 1980s version. That's what you want to do. Poop over the owl. Go ahead.
I feel like I might have a hard time with. Did you say the Iliad and the Odyssey? Is that what you just said? Yeah.
That is an adventure in itself.
I feel like I would have a hard time reading that. But.
Like the epitome of adventure is in that book. Like, yeah.
Yeah, you get a lot of this person slew this one, and the gods were angry this day, and they smote that one, but not this one. So,
but yeah, I give it 5 stars.
I gave it 4. And I think the main reason is because if you know the basic story of Ariadne, which is like the first part of the book, oh my God, this is so dull. Not dull, but it's just like if you already know about the Minotaur, and we didn't even talk about the Minotaur, by the way.
Oh,
the Minotaur, and that's where it's like, well, I know that. Somebody show me something different, and that's not a diss against her. It's just
Yeah, this kind of seemed like this kind of eases everybody into that story.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So.
But yeah,
well, I enjoyed it. Yeah, I think she did follow most of the stories very accurately.
Oh yeah, she did. I'm not dying for it. But it's like I say, if you already know the myth. You know where things are going. Yeah, but once it jumps off that, it's like, oh, hooray, The
stories and the details.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I felt bad for the Minotaur, too.
It's not his fault. He's a beast.
Nothing was his fault. He didn't ask to be born. He didn't ask for anything.
That's Asterion, the star.
And we didn't talk too much about Pasiphae either, because she was kind of weird as a mom. I always felt like she wasn't really there.
She was still cursed, part of the curse, even though she was still I don't know, it was a cycle because she came back to normal when the Minotaur was killed. So she started singing again. She started, she started becoming a person again, but she still had that trauma as well. So
that PTSD. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so it sounds like for the most part, we all enjoyed Ariadne. If you stuck around this long and you haven't read it, thank you for sticking around to listen to our discussion. But definitely go check it out because it was really good. I think it was really enjoyable. For July, and thankfully it's a shorter book because I'm gonna try to get us back on track here. We are reading The Chosen and the Beautiful by Nevo, and it is a Great Gatsby retelling. I think it's LGBTQ, and it's also got some magic and fantasy elements worked in. So I just recently read The Great Gatsby for the first time.
Oh,
and so I was kind of excited to hear that this came out. I think probably because The Great Gatsby is now in public domain. I'm seeing a lot of retellings of it kind of popping up, but this was one that I've heard lots of good things about. So that's what we'll be reading for this month in July. Once again, if you popped in to say hi, if you are watching after the fact, please let me know in the comments. And thank you, and hopefully we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye, guys.
See ya.